Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to this episode of Soulful Conversation. Today is July 21st, 2021. I am your host, Lady J. Before I get started today, I would like to thank my Creator Yahweh for allowing me to see another day. In the name of His Son, Yeshua, and the word of Elohim. Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah. Today, my dear guest, I have an exciting young man to introduce to you. Allow me to welcome Mr. Adams. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I spoke with you on July 21st. We briefly discussed your pet health concerns. I want to know how she's doing today.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Uh, the pet is doing very, very well. Betty is more than ever before feeling very okay. You recall I told you how she ingested some poisonous chemicals, and we've been going in and out of the doctor's office, the veterinary doctor, and right now I can confirm that she's doing very, very fine.
That's good to know. That is really good to know. I'm going to ask you this. Would it be safe to say that you are a dog person?
Duck? Did you say duck?
I said, I'm going to ask you this question. Would it be safe to say that you are a dog person? A person that likes dogs?
Okay, yes, I do.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Did you know that animals can reduce loneliness and boost your mood? Did you know that?
Yes, I do. And that explains part of the reason why I love animals as well.
Let me ask you this. What's something you were really stressed about? It turned out to be nothing, no big deal.
Um, all of the pains and struggles in life generally, it turns out to be no big deal because eventually it is um, practically impossible for anybody to be born and come to this world and not go through some hard and difficult times. So it is always about how you are able to get yourself going and get through all of those situations. So for me, it's really no big deal. For people who haven't really tasted the other part of life, they feel okay. They've always been in the good part, and then when they get into the bad part, it becomes very difficult for them to pick themselves up. So for me, it's no big deal. But before now, it used to be stressful.
So you can bounce back from any situation.
That's right.
That's good.
By the special grace of God.
That's a good answer. Let me ask you this one. What's the most effective way for a government to control its people?
The most effective way for a government to control its people, basically for me, is meet their basic needs. Don't make promises and go against those promises. Like, how you tell somebody you want to do this and you stand by it, and the moment you don't do it, even after you've said you're going to do it, that could bring about a rebellion. So the most effective way to control your people is listen to them and keep to your promises.
Okay, I can understand. I can understand that answer. Would you say that humans are better at creation or destruction?
I would say humans are better at creation.
Why do you say that?
Oh, well, the whole idea of creation is not for destructive purposes. So I think the whole idea of creation is beautiful. When it comes to the aspect of destruction, is many times, self-inflicted. So when you abuse the whole idea of creation and how you're supposed to live, how you're supposed to conduct yourself, that is uh, that is the way leading you to self-destruction.
True. I agree with you 100%. So, with that said, then, are people ethically obligated to improve themselves?
Definitely, the moment you are born and you are living, that is the only chance you've got to improve yourself and grow. The moment you die, you have no such opportunity to improve. And then we are living in a world where competition has actually taken the fall. So you cannot probably always be where you are if you actually want to, make positive strides. So in order for you to be where you actually want to be, or where you feel you are destined to be, then there is always has to be a room for improvement and growth.
And that's across the border, that's across the globe. Everyone needs to be on the same page as far as wanting to be constructive. Is that what you're saying?
Right, right.
Okay. All right. So, what would happen to a society in which no one had to work and everyone was provided enough food and water and shelter, and our health care would be free?
That is almost going to be like a lazy society. Um, you cannot. There is this saying that there is no free food in Freetown, and you can imagine if there were free food in Freetown. It tells you everybody wants to live in Freetown, but practically speaking, can everybody live in Freetown? The answer is no. Are they free food in Freetown? By the explanation, the answer is yes. So you cannot. Why not save yourself the whole stress of trying to be jam packed in one place only because you are actually running away from responsibilities. So for one, I believe that it is good for you to get things free, especially when you don't have to overly labor for them. But I tell you, it is also very, very profitable if you have to work for them. It adds a lot of value. You cannot compare when you have a car given to you free. You've always had your cars, every of your cars you've ever driven on, you're always free, versus when you have had to work and get yourself a car. The value placed on all of those are quite differently. So it is good if a government wants to, give health care services free. It is very important for the sustainability of that particular state. But also, citizens have to be seen to work to assist the government in being able to provide those services as well.
So that sounds like civics, the um, the study of civics, where
Right.
we are responsible for certain things as citizens. So you're saying collectively, we all take responsibility in doing some of the things that would help us improve our society.
Right.
Is that
That's right.
correct? Okay. Um,
That's right.
I appreciate your answer. Here's something that I would like to ask you, Mr. Adams. What age do you want to live to?
Okay. What age I want to live to? If
Yeah.
it was possible, if it was possible for me to live to 300 years, I honestly do not mind because I feel like, it's a beautiful thing to be alive and you also want to live. Ordinarily, I feel like I would rather want to see myself being fulfilled, like living a fulfilled life. You see some people who die at the age of 50 humanly speaking, some people feel like, they died so young, but we are not looking at the other part where it is also possible, like that they have fulfilled, all of their callings and all of the things they really need to do. So it doesn't really matter how long the time. But also, for my, for myself as a person, I'd like to say 200, 300, but realistically speaking, 120,
100.
is just fine.
Okay, let's change the subject here, because just now you expressed wanting to live for 300 years. You and I, a few days ago, had a conversation about heaven and hell. Do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
What, since you just mentioned living to be 300 years old or 120, I wanted to take some time to deviate from our previous question session and ask you something on the more spiritual realm. My question to you is, heaven and hell, where do you believe heaven is, Mr. Adams?
Heaven, I believe, is an eternal home for believers. So I don't know if you, I have to physically say upwards or downwards, but I have never been to heaven before, and I have also never been to hell alike. But I can tell you that heaven is exactly where God, abounds. That is where heaven is.
You said heaven is where God abounds?
Yes.
So when and if you die, Mr. Adams, where will your spirit go? Because the reason why I'm asking you that is it's a great debate between myself and several people about where we end up when we die. A young lady I know expressed that she believes in reincarnation. So when someone is reincarnated, from my understanding, they come back as something else, perhaps a butterfly or an animal or things of that sort. So basically, I'm trying to figure out from the people that I speak to, when they talk about heaven and hell and eternal burning, which personally I do not feel as though my mindset does not accept a continuous burning in hell. I don't accept that. So from you, I'd like to know, because I'm not quite sure that I understood you. Do you know or have an idea where everyone goes when they die? I mean, in the Bible, it speaks about we will not feel pain, we will not be sick, we will not experience some of the atrocities that we experience here on earth. We will not suffer, we will not feel pain. So where are we going to be when these things take place? Do you know?
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
So, what I want to say is, first of all, I would just briefly refer to you to the book of Hebrews 9:27, which says, "And it is appointed unto man to die once, and after this the judgment."
What? Excuse me. What chapter and what verse?
Hebrews 9:27.
Okay, go ahead.
Hebrews chapter 9 verse 27. So it says, and it is appointed unto man to die once, and after death comes judgment. So I do not believe respectfully about the reincarnation story. I understand that you're trying to give me a perspective of another guest, but then, personally speaking, I do not believe in reincarnation. So having said that, I will also tell you that from my experiences, or from what I've read and from what I believe as per my faith in Christ, I believe strongly that when the just, and when I say the just, when a Christian dies, I, as an individual, do not refer to them as, dying. I feel like they sleep in the Lord. So when a Christian sleeps in the Lord, that is not the end of it. The journey after is the journey of eternity with Christ. So I can categorically tell you that when I die, unfortunately, most people are always afraid of talking about when they die, because they feel, we have to be positive. We need to always confess positivity, which I understand, and rightly so. But this is the reality. Everybody is going to die someday. When that time is, nobody knows. But eventually it's going to happen. But when it happens, I'm going to be with the Lord. And that's in heaven.
And where is heaven?
So, heaven is above.
Heaven is where?
Above. That's where heaven
above. You said heaven is above?
Yes.
Okay.
Above.
Okay.
That's where heaven is.
Okay.
I'll also prefer to say heaven is where God is. So the question is, where is God? God is in heaven. Where do I want to go when I die? Heaven. Who do I want to be with? I want to be with God.
Okay. Here are my thoughts about what you just said and what I've heard from people, what I've read, and how I understand. You are familiar with Adam and Eve, correct?
Right.
And Adam and Eve was placed in a earthly paradise. Would you agree?
Yeah, you're talking about the Eden.
Okay, so Eden was an earthly paradise, correct?
I will not say it is an earthly paradise.
So what?
Because unless we try to establish what a paradise is, are you trying to say earthly heaven, like heaven on earth?
Well, they were put on earth, weren't they?
Yes, they were on earth and they were at the Garden of Eden.
So that
I might not say, I will not be able to say they were in paradise at Eden. The simple reason is just we know to be paradise. Like you see people of the Jehovah's Witness denomination, they refer to heaven as paradise. That is how they don't literally say heaven. They say paradise. So, but what I want to understand, what I want you to also understand is in paradise or in heaven, it is very impossible to see the devil or its manipulative powers or its control in heaven as of today that we speak. I am not talking about, I'm talking about posts after Satan was, sent packing from heaven. So if we say paradise on earth, the only reason why I will not agree as relating to the Garden of Eden, like the paradise of Eden, is because it is not possible to have the devil in the paradise, or as I would put it, the devil in heaven. So I could just say, as my opinion, not a public opinion though, that Adam and Eve was in the Garden of Eden. But I also do not feel like that was their paradise. Because until man actually failed God or disobeyed God, we would never have known if there was a plan for man to, go somewhere else outside of the Garden of Eden. We can just say that Adam, disobeyed, and Eve and man disobeyed, and then that brought about all of the destructions and the problems, surrounding man today. But we cannot say what was in the offing, like what was all the plans that God had. We could only say of what we know and what we have read, and not necessarily what we experienced, because neither you nor I was there. We can only give our perspective based on what we have read and all of that.
Based on what occurred in the garden, Adam and Eve,
Yes.
based on what occurred in the garden, Adam and Eve was in a heaven-like state. They did not realize that they were naked. They didn't experience any hardship until after they transgressed, until after they disobeyed the Creator. So you said that there could not be the devil in heaven, but how does the devil come to us? The devil comes to us in our mind. That is our heaven. That is our control center. That's how we operate, our brain. And the devil doesn't, the spirit of Lucifer resides in us all. Lucifer can come to me as a friend, as someone that I can see. And those words that come from that friend's mouth can either uplift me or tear me down. That friend can tell me the truth or be dishonest. So when you say that Lucifer cannot reside in heaven, if you're looking at it from a physical perspective, thinking or under the assumption that heaven is above us, we are within the realm of heaven here on earth. Where do you think Adam and Eve were? Adam and Eve was in paradise. Paradise, according to the definition, if I'm not mistaken, is a beautiful garden or place. Yahweh placed you and I here, or Adam and Eve here, to populate the earth. Had he intended for Adam and Eve to be in the heavens with him and the angels, then that's where they would be. So when people say that we're going to die and go to heaven, I'm not saying that that isn't possible. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what if all of these things take place in our mind? Because Adam and Eve originally was in a spiritual state of mind. They didn't know about anything physical, about their nakedness, about evil, about any of those things until they disobeyed. Once they disobeyed, they came down from that heavenly state and became earth-like, became carnal-minded. So I am of the mindset that heaven is a state of mind, just like hell is a state of mind. And when we take off this flesh, so basically, Samuel, what I'm trying to express is that I am of the mindset that Adam and Eve was in heaven. They were in their earthly heaven, and that they only came out of that heavenly state because they disobeyed Yahweh, and their spiritual mind was dimmed and their physical mind was opened. And from that point on, they suffered the ways of the flesh. And that is my thoughts. Do you care to elaborate?
Okay, go ahead and elaborate.
No, I said, do you care to elaborate?
Okay, well, I, respect what your thoughts are, but I also will, you know, I'm not going to say I am very, very open to, getting different perspectives, but I think most of our perspectives is basically on some teachings or some of our learning. So it might be a little bit difficult to agree on this, especially when I feel like heaven is not on earth. Like there's a difference. So that's in my opinion. So I feel like, when the Bible says it is appointed unto man to die once and after death comes judgment, judgment is, the activity or the particular event that was going to happen that was going to determine the fate of man in general. So what happens in the day of judgment is what gives you an idea or what tells you exactly where you will be. So does it mean that people who are judged to be sinners and people who haven't done according to the dictates of God are going to be on earth, like they're going to be in hell on earth, while people who have been judged to be righteous, like who have been judged to have kept the dictates of God and have served Him and have lived, a life after Christ, like a Christ-like life, are they going to be in heaven on earth? So some of these things tells me that, it is either you're going to be in heaven or you're going to be in hell.
Are you in hell now? Are you in hell now?
No, I'm on earth.
But
I'm on earth.
But have you seen or experienced anything? Have you experienced anything in your lifetime that felt like this must be hell? This must be what hell feels like. Have you ever experienced anything that would make you?
No. No, and I'm going to explain.
Okay.
No. The answer is no, and I'm going to explain. What, the Bible explains, the picture the Bible paints hell to be is nothing compared to what any man born of a woman has experienced. And I tell you, and not even Job, as much as Job was tested, not even Job. I tell you, Job looks like a practical example of a man who lost virtually everything that he ever had. But that is not the beginning and the end of what hell, actually means. Because Job had a time where he was very rich, he had everything going on for him very well, and then there came a time where Satan had to take permission from God because he wanted to test Job. And God was convinced that, he knew the kind of a man, he knew Job was a man of, timber and caliber, and that was why he permitted Satan to test Job. And during the testing period, you saw everything that happened to Job. But the Bible also recorded that there was a time for, there was a time where God made everything beautiful for Job. Like, it didn't just end with the testing. Job lost a lot of things, but there was a sweet ending to it. There was an ending that connotes the fact that, even after going through this pain, there was a light after the tunnel. But that is not the story for hell. When a man is, goes to hell, exactly the hell that was described in the book of Revelation, there's no remedy. There is no time to be in hell and have a light after the tunnel, because we're talking about the end of the world right there. So that's why I say I have witnessed people die. Like I witnessed my dad death a couple of years ago. I witnessed the death of loved ones, people who died during child death and all of that. But I tell you that, there were crying times, there were not so good times. We remember those people who died, we wept when they did. But look at us, living our lives like, that never happened. But this is not the case for hell, because the practical scenario of what hell looks like in the book of Revelation is not one that any man wants to be. It's not the situation where anybody wants to get into. If you ask anybody today, would you rather lose all your loved ones here on earth than dying and going to burn, in hell? Nobody is ever going to tell you, oh, I prefer to burn in hell than to lose my loved ones, because we already know what the life looks like, what the world looks like. Nobody's going to live forever. So we are only going to live practically in our today. So I am still going to stay on my opinion that says I have never witnessed what it looks like in hell. None of my experiences, no matter how bad it is. But I can also tell you that I have witnessed some things that are like benefits of being a Christian. But I have not experienced anything close to what it is going to look like in heaven. And no man has experienced heaven on earth. Like we know from the Bible that it is going to be a whole life of worship, no more death, no more pain, no more sorrow. I mean, it is just going to be outright fellowship with the King of Kings. And then, who dare tells me that they have ever experienced anything close to that on earth? So, you can only imagine, we can only imagine what heaven looks like. And the reason why we have a lead or a contact to so I feel like we can, as human beings, we can only imagine. So heaven, the real idea of what heaven is what no man has experienced. We have had so many revelations. People talk about the revelations of heavens and what they've seen and all of that. But I can tell you categorically that, heaven is more than, what we can imagine. And that's why we are all striving to be in the Lord, stay in the Lord, get it right, as much as we cannot be perfect people, but we can strive towards perfection. So that is the only reason why we are all, struggling to remain in the Lord, and then in hope that when we are called home, we are going to be in the right hand side of our Maker. But having said that, heaven is nothing compared to what we have witnessed on earth. I've witnessed a lot of miracle. I can tell you categorically speaking, as my own testimony, that I have had to be rushed to an hospital before, and I have an X-ray from a licensed medical facility which says I had a blood vessel got busted in my brain, and prayers was being made on my behalf because I was unconscious, I was on life support, I was on oxygen, and miraculously I became healed. The medical doctor told me at my bedside, when he looked at the X-ray, that they brought the X-ray of me that was brought as a report from another medical facility. He said to me that what he sees here defiles science, that They didn't carry out an emergency surgical, operation on my head, like my brain, and I became whole, like healed, like nothing ever happened. Meanwhile, I have an X-ray, saying that I had a blood vessel got busted in my brain. That tells you that miracle do happen, and that tells you that it could have only been God. However, in heaven, it is different. There will be no time where I am ever going to fall sick when I'm with the Lord. There is no time where we would need a doctor to diagnose us of any ailment. So that is the difference. So nobody is going to diagnose anybody of being in hell. Like when somebody is being burnt in the lake of fire, nobody is going to save you because you had all of your lifetime to, make amends and correct your ways and all of that. So this is why I say, if we still, today, we still very much relying on science. But so many people, more people believe in science than they believe in the miraculous power of God. That is a sad reality. Yes, that is a sad reality of today.
That is true.
So when people believe in sciences, and even sometimes when you speak with the medical doctors, they tell you that I know a hospital in this place where I am, where when they take you there and they see that this is, beyond their control, they tell you, listen, I'm only going to tell you, it is only God that can do this. So it tells you that the whole revolution or evolution, the whole evolution of sciences is traced to God. Whatever knowledge man possesses and whatever knowledge man displays today is from God. And that is the reason why God has the power to raise the dead. He has the power to bring dry bones back to life. A medical doctor has no such power. They have no such power to surgically bring back a confirmed dead person back to life. They could try to bring back somebody to life only when there is a report or evidence is to prove that the person is not yet dead. But this is not the same with God. He brings back those who have stopped breathing back to life. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we have experienced a lot of things that makes us lose focus of what we stand to gain in heaven. We have seen a lot of miracles, but there will be no issues, there will be no situations where God needs to bring back somebody back to life in heaven. So it tells you that all of those miracles are temporary. They are only going to happen while we are here on earth. And then when somebody dies, unless God deems it fit to bring back that person to life, nothing happens. So, and this is why most people find it difficult to differentiate between miracle and magic. It will take somebody who is rooted in Christ to be able to differentiate between the two, because even when Lucifer was thrown out of heaven, he didn't relinquish the powers he had. He had powers, with him. So I might not be able to tell you why he still had those powers, but this was the design. If it didn't happen, if he didn't have those powers, perhaps you will not hear about the manipulations going on earth. You will not hear about how evil people are manipulating people, healing people with spiritual powers and all of that. That is not the idea of God. So I'm trying to tell you that as human beings, I can tell you without mincing words that we have not experienced, 1/4 of what it is like in heaven.
Oh.
What we are experiencing on earth is the benefit. What we are experiencing in terms of miracle, in terms of grace, is the benefit of being in Christ. But if the Bible tells you that there is a place that is better than the earth, and you need to walk, the Bible says, walk out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So you need to walk out the salvation, because where we are right now is not your home. I can tell you that there is a place that is better than the earth. So we are yet to experience what it is like in heaven. I tell you, a place where it is fellowship, there is no dying, there is no mourning, there is no pains, there is no hunger, there is no starvation, there is no war, there is no country is going to wake up one morning, develop chemical weapons, and transfer viruses everywhere. So it tells you that that can only happen on earth. So I strongly believe that, heaven is a whole different place entirely.
Okay.
So thank you.
You're welcome. I respect your views, and I am happy that Yahweh healed you so that you were here able to talk with me. And you and I will revisit this conversation about life and death, heaven and hell, at a later time. We're going to devote the entire show to this topic. How about that?
Right.
So,
very, very good.
Good. I appreciate you saying that. I want to go back now to the beginning where I was asking you some specific questions. Can we go back there now?
Right away, Ma.
All right. So the next thing that I'd like to ask you is, are you usually early or late?
Very early. I like to be early. As a matter of fact, most times, let me give you a practical example. While I was in school, while I was on the road to obtain a bachelor's degree in political science, I studied for 4 years, and all of the 4 years I could tell you that I never had a correct time. So right now, as I speak, the time is 7:15, but my time will always say 6:45,
Oh.
7 o'clock. So that's because I always feel like, I don't want to miss a thing. I don't want to miss a thing, because most times when you're very early, you don't need to stay all of the time. There are things that you don't get, you will never have to get when you go late. So I always have the idea of, I'm this kind of a person. When I don't go to places, maybe an exam hall or an occasion, if I don't go early, I always feel like, this thing is past me. So I always like to be very, very early.
I share that same personality type. I like to be early. Sometimes I arrive at my job a whole hour ahead of time. It gives me time to do some things, some reading, some checking on different business ventures. So I do the same thing that you do. And I see that you said that you set your clocks maybe 15 minutes early. Every clock in my office and rooms are 10 to 15 minutes early. So I'm the same way. I appreciate that. What about, what has been the best period of your life, Mr. Adams?
Oh, the best period of my life, that's a little bit dicey, but I'm going to say that the best period of my life were those times where I found my consciousness. What do I mean? There was this time in my life where I was in school, and I knew that I had a parent that was willing to sacrifice anything just to give me this education. And then the beautiful part of it was I had to somehow do something to make sure that I reduced the burden on her, and that was to get into a political position while I was in school, and I was being paid as a student representative head, like the speaker of the student representative council of the university where I attended. So I was being paid, and what I was being paid was good enough to pay my fees. So I was proud as a young guy to be able to look into my mother's eyes and say, you know what, you could keep this money and put it somewhere else, because I think I have been able to sort this myself. So I'll tell you that the best part of my life is the part where I am able to find value. I am able to find the consciousness, or my consciousness. Those are the best part of my life. I know this sounds very uncommon, because most people will say, oh, the best part of my life was when I got this particular gift, when I visited Disneyland, when I did all of that. But sometimes it goes beyond some of those achievements. Some people say, oh, the best part of my life was when I was able to go through school and bag my bachelor's degree and all of that. But I feel that the best part is where I was able to, at some point in my life, where I found the consciousness, why I was able to do some of the things I wanted to do. I was able to do it just so, I eased the pressure in some other parts of my life and, and people around me.
Well, you know your worth, and I can respect that. You know your worth. And I know your mother is quite proud of you. That's wonderful.
Yes, she is.
That's wonderful. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some what I call this or that questions. And the first question is, do you prefer phone calls or texts?
Text.
I despise texting. I really, really do. The tiny keys, the tiny words. In order to see on the screen, I have to put on glasses, which is annoying also. So personally, I'm a phone call person, and most people do not like to talk on the phone.
Right. The only reason why I like text is, I don't know, maybe because I've been very used to it. I like to relay messages in real time via phone call. I know there are some times where a text message you wouldn't do it, but let me a little bit just say digress. When I enjoy text messaging with my spouse, but my spouse unfortunately likes phone conversations. But I do not hate phone conversations, but I just feel like when I text you and I get your reply, I feel like I'm not missing anything, because whatever you say is what I could go through, and I could forget some conversations. We could say some things and I might not really be able to remember everything over a very long period of time. But when I have it in text, I'm able to, there are reassurances. I could go back and say, okay, I'm able to read that expression you would have on a phone call, in the text. So, but that is not to say 100% that, but if you ask me text or phone calls, text messages. But if I want to talk to, say, my boss, I'd rather talk to my boss on phone, for example, because how do I put it in a text that will be very, very 100% respectful to him? So, but when we have a conversation, for my loved ones, I usually like texting. But that is not to say that I don't like phone calls. But on a scale, I think I like texting.
Okay. In response to that, from my perspective, again, I have literally texted several people. I consider myself a very precise and meticulous person. And in my text, I was very specific about what I was trying to achieve. The people that responded entirely missed the point of the text and never responded to that. Their response was, thank you, and or something about, well, what should I add to your suggestion. My point for saying this is that whether you are talking to a person or texting a person, the information that you are trying to relay to them somehow is missed. Either way, but it surprises me that that holds true for texting. How can you not read what's in front of you and respond to it? So human beings sometimes baffle me. Are you still there? So yeah, like I said, Mr. Adams, human beings baffle me all the time, all the time. What about swimming or sunbathing? Which one do you prefer? Which
I
one?
like to swim. I come from swimming. I like to swim. I'm a very good swimmer. I come from an area where we have a lot of water, and if you were born in that environment and you don't know how to swim, it's more or less like you are yet to know some basic things about where you come from. So I like swimming,
Okay.
100%.
You're in Nigeria, right?
Right.
How far from the ocean are you?
I cannot say exactly how far.
So you're
Not
not
for sure.
you're not within a mile of a place where you go swimming. Is that right?
No, no, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
So, but when you say ocean, I understand when you say ocean, but there are hotels, like hotel facilities where you have swimming pools and all of that. But I have one uh, about a mile away from me. But I like a natural river, like compared to a swimming pool, like a swimming facility.
We here have a place that we call beaches. They are,
Yes,
yes. I don't know if you guys call them beaches. I don't know how far.
yes, we do.
Oh, so the closest beach to where you are, do you know the distance?
No, I don't.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Let me ask you this. Do you prefer Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook, 100%.
Okay. Do you prefer an ice cream cone or a snow cone?
Ice cream, 100%, especially yogurt.
Especially yogurt?
Yeah,
Okay. I like yogurt. I like yogurt. What about honesty or others' feelings?
honesty, 100%. If I cannot do this, there is no point trying to tell you, oh, I'm going to do it. Oh, Samuel, I'm going to call you tomorrow by 5 p.m. If I have any reason not to be able to do it, I should be able to tell you. But I would not want to paint myself to be the kind of a person who says a thing and find it difficult to keep it. Oh, well, I am not perfect. There could be several things that I could say, and there is always this point where action becomes the issue. So that is where we are very, very imperfect people. But honesty for me um, is very important, very, very important. So if you say stuff, you try to just be seen to have to have the zeal to want to do it. So it's good to be honest.
Okay, okay. I appreciate you taking the time to answer all my questions. I have a surprise question, maybe two surprise questions for you. Is that all right?
Okay. All right.
The first thing I'd like to know, what languages do you speak?
English language and Ukwani language.
Okay, it's funny though that I don't speak any particular language, and I often think that had my ancestors been able to retain their native tongue in America and not had it beaten out of them, perhaps I would be able to speak your language, and that would be something that would make me happy. So maybe one day when you have time, you can start teaching me some of your language. Is that all right?
Okay. Very all right. But is that to say that you have an ancestral relation to or connection to Nigeria?
Overall, I am convinced that the Negro race came from, in fact, human race came from the continent of Africa. And when I say my ancestors, I'm saying that somewhere in my family tree, my people were enslaved and brought to America. So I know that my great great grandparents were enslaved here in America, and their parents were most likely taken from somewhere in Africa. So when I speak of ancestry, I'm speaking of overall. Do you understand?
Right.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so the last question I have for you is this. Is there anything you don't know about me that you would like to know?
Oh, I have to take a moment to think about that.
No problem. I heard you.
What's your
Go
what?
ahead.
Okay. What's your job? What do you do for a living?
I deliver meds. I work for I have a couple of jobs, Mr. Adams. I work for what do you call, ride share company. I don't know if you guys have Uber in
Yes,
Nigeria.
yes, we do.
Well, I work for a ride share program. I mean, a ride share business. And then we have uh, a another ride share, I guess you could call it, business called DoorDash. There's a number of them, but I work with DoorDash where I deliver food, people's medicine, whatever they call in for. If I decide to take that particular trip, I can deliver some of anything, office material, anything. So I am in the transportation business, Mr. Adams. I've retired, so I do this whenever I want to, which is basically every day.
Okay.
How about
So my
you?
final question:
What is that?
you have kids, and how many kids do you have?
This is how I'm going to answer that question. I cannot say right now whether I have or do not have any children. What I will say is, on the personal notes about me, I've written my autobiography, and in that I disclose everything under the sun about me from the time that I can remember. So hopefully one day you will go out and either order it from me directly or find it somewhere in your country and purchase it. And we will discuss all of that on our next show. How about that?
Okay.
So, at this time, my dear people, Mr. Adams and I are going to end our show. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and welcome you back next week for another episode of Soulful Conversations. We've had with us today Mr. Adams from Nigeria, and I'd like to thank you, sir, for staying with us, for forgiving us for the interruptions, and for being here for me today. Is that all right?
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
You have a blessed day.
You too, Mom. Thank you.
So, my beautiful people, I ask you to stay strong and stay tuned. This is Lady J. Again, I appreciate you stopping by. Until next week, ciao.